I want to thank the gentle lady from Ohio for holding this special order. Congresswoman Flood, thank you very, very much. You're making a lasting contribution to this discussion, to this debate. Voting rights are under attack in America. Quietly, gradually, state by state, the right to vote that many people died for has been taken away. Some time ago, some of us came to this floor, I believe the past summer, to warn the American people about this dangerous trend. No one, but no one, seemed to be listening. But today, we can no longer ignore this trend. Congressman Holt said just a few moments ago that the Brennan Center released a report that shows that voting law changes in states across the country would make it much harder for more than 5 million voters to exercise their constitutional right to vote. In 2011, we should be ashamed. Today, we should be making it easy, simple, and convenient to vote. Instead, we are creating barriers and making it more difficult for citizens to vote. There's not just one law, but many types of laws that are disenfranchising millions of voters. Voter ID laws, proof of citizenship laws, barriers to registration, elimination of early and absentee voting, making it harder to restore voting rights for people who have paid their debt to society. These laws are barriers to an inclusive democracy. They are a disgrace and they are a shame to our democracy. We continue to step backward toward another dark time in our history. We cannot separate the dangerous trend across this nation from our history and the struggle for the right to vote. Before the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, not so long ago, it was almost impossible for some citizens to register and vote. Many were harassed, jailed, beaten, and some were even killed for trying to participate in the democratic process. In the 1960s, people stood in what I like to call immovable lines, trying to register to vote. People waited day and day only to be turned away and told that voters were not being registered on that day. The same thing has happened today. States are passing laws to restrict voter registration and are doing away with the same-day voter registration. There's no reason that we cannot make it easy and convenient for people to register to vote. 10 years ago, the Carter-Ford National Task Force on Election Reform called the United States registration laws among the world's most standing and blamed those registration laws for low voter turnout. Because of registration problems, 3 million American citizens tried to vote in 2008 presidential election, but they could not vote. And with these new laws restricting voter registration, the problem would get even worse. One of the most dangerous voting changes is the new voter ID requirement, which are disenfranchising millions of American voters. Approximately 11% of voting-age citizens in the country, or more than 20 million individuals, do not have a government-issued photo ID. Today, too many states require photo ID in order to vote. Each and every voter ID law is a real threat to voting rights in America. Make no mistake, these voter ID laws are a poll tax. I know what I saw during the 60s. I saw a poll tax. And you cannot deny that these ID laws are another form of a poll tax. In an economy where people are already struggling to pay for the most basic necessity, there are too many citizens who will be unable to afford the fees and transportation costs involved in getting government-issued photo ID. Despite all of the new voter ID laws across the country, there's no convincing evidence, no evidence at all that voter fraud is a problem in our election process. The right to vote is precious, almost sacred and one of the most important blessings of our democracy. Today, we must stand up and fight. The history of the right to vote in America is a history of conflict, a struggle for that right. Many people died trying to protect that right. I was beaten in jail because I stood up for it. For millions like me, the struggle for the right to vote is not mere history, it is experience. We should not take a step backward with new poll tax and voter ID laws and barriers to voter registration and voter participation. We must ensure every vote and every vote count. The vote is the most powerful, nonviolent tool or instrument we have in a democratic society. If we allow our power to vote to be taken away, we'll be facing the need for another movement, a new nonviolent revolution in America. To retake the same ground we won almost 50 years ago, we must fight back. Thank you. Thank you again for helping and giving us a voice, giving us a way to fight back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the history lesson we just received.